Cool.
I think as long as we keep it just about kissing distance away, we'll be okay.
There.
And since you mentioned John, the man with the dribble in his ass at the moment, God bless him.
Yep.
And his recovery.
Power to him.
Yeah, we all. At least he took the leap that we weren't willing to.
Yeah. God bless.
I was going to say,
man of science, falling on the blade so we don't have to. Now we know
goes where no man has gone before.
Now
except
we
for
know.
he and Richard Gere.
Yes,
of course.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Richard Gere. Also,
shout out. I don't know how you start the episodes. I listened to one.
This is exactly how we start.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh gosh.
You're basically on the right track.
Okay, perfect.
We're already doing
you mean
oh god, I dropped my phone. Now we're
You mean it always starts in complete disarray all the time like this?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Sometimes I almost pour a beer on my laptop.
No,
sometimes
Jesus.
John almost drowns from a beer. Stuff like that.
I'm not much of a beer person like you and the other one. He shall not be named since he couldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, could you have picked a better beer? Not a fan.
Okay,
not a fan.
It's funny you mentioned that because John is also not a fan of this very specific beer that we're having. But I brought it for a reason, a couple of reasons. One being, so during John's bachelor party, you may remember when we drove up to San Francisco and later on Petaluma, and then after that we went over to Windsor and everything like that.
I forget. Yep.
In Santa Rosa, California.
I know where this is going.
So we, on our way up in Petaluma, we stopped by Hen House Brewing, which is super cool. And we saw that right down the street, Lagunitas Brewing Company was right there.
Yep.
And
it was like across the street. It wasn't even like down the street. It was like on the other side.
Super close.
Yeah.
It was like seriously walking distance.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went there, it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and they were closed that day. And then so we're like, oh, we'll come back the following day when they're open. So we did.
Yes, we did.
Only problem is, as you know.
I'm very familiar, yes.
We had a great first night out there in Santa Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
And, went over to Russian River Brewing Company. Shout out. And Peter had a lot of fun. We had
a lot of fun.
We proceeded to have Whistle Pig 18-year rye whiskey that night, which was awesome and delectable, but further led to our demise and destruction.
Mine specifically.
Especially me, yes.
I
would say. But then the following day, we made good on our call, and we were going to go back down to Petaluma, hit up Lagunitas, and it was a great time for about 75% of the people that were present.
Yes, you're referencing how I was hating life that entire day. I could not function. I was just in absolute pain. Probably the second worst hungover I've ever had in my life.
Well, if it's any consolation, John and I reference that day pretty often, just when we hang out, because we're like, despite Peter having that rough of a day, you were still game for everything.
I was,
down.
It's my boy's bachelor party. I'm not going to be a fucking party pooper. No, I could be in a wheelchair, and I'd be saying I was down.
Hell yeah. Well, and it showed, because anything we wanted to do, you were down. You even had a little bit of the hair of the dog later on that morning when we went to, or the next morning, we went to Russian River Brewing Company, had some beers, and I'm pretty sure you had like a Happy Hops or Blind Pig while we were chilling at the bar there in the brewery.
I think it was Blind Pig.
Probably.
I remember not liking one of them, and I think it was Happy Hops I didn't like.
It's definitely Happy Hops you didn't like.
Okay. Yeah. Is that a notorious one that people don't like or something?
You're just 2 for 2 as far as within our friendship circle. John isn't the biggest Happy Hops fan either. Hence why I bought him a Happy Hops shirt not long ago.
All right.
But he likes the shirt.
Well, shout out to that night, to John's bachelor party. Thank you for commemorating it with such a
very good
mediocre beer.
Sure, yeah. So with that, we're having the standard Lagunitas IPA. Have a little sippy.
Oh, it got a little icy. It was in the freezer for a bit longer than I thought.
That's not too bad, actually.
So it's funny you mentioned that night.
Please.
As I'm sure you may recall, that entire weekend we were super into what John had showed us to be the first episode of the Dave Show, like season 2 or something.
Yes.
And I don't know if you out there, if anybody out there has seen it, it's the last episode of season 1, I think.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Right.
And it starts off with this crazy music video. I won't spoil it for you. Look it up. And we just could not stop laughing uncontrollably at that.
Referenced it the entire way up up to Petaluma and like Santa Rosa and all the way back down. And while we stayed there,
And just this past week, just randomly, I started thinking about that, and I just looked it up and watched it again for old time's sake. Just pure coincidence. So it's just funny you brought it up.
there's one line that I'm thinking of that is spitting out of something. But like you said, let's not spoil it. But if you know, you know, and if you don't, check it out.
Look it up. It's great.
Again, probably season finale of 1 or 2, but I think you're right. It's season 1.
Yeah, I believe it's season 1. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's funny because, like, yeah, we did that for your bachelor party. We had a recurring theme, and then for mine, we also had a recurring theme, which was a song by Picard.
Oh, yeah. Picard.
We played a lot.
Well, that wasn't for your bachelor party. That was like the day before your wedding. We were into that, wasn't it?
No, well, we had continued listening to it the day before my wedding, based off us grinding that song out over and over during my bachelor party getaway. So no, I remember.
They took off a few of his songs off Spotify, which I was pretty upset about.
He's been a troublesome
individual. I know.
He's got the controversies.
I can separate the art from the artist. Sure, I don't agree with him personally, but art is art. His music's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm kind of annoyed that they took off some of his stuff.
I can agree. I didn't notice, though. That's kind of crazy. Probably a lot of copyright stuff, too, since he does sample a lot of his sounds and soundscapes from movies and stuff.
I guess, but at that point, it's like... I don't know.
Fair use.
I don't know how that works. If I'm being totally honest.
No, nor do I. I'm just assuming fair use.
I took one law class, and it had nothing to do with copyright.
Very nice. Well, that being said, we are sipping the beer. For me personally, this is like an easy go-to IPA. It's one of my dad's easy favorites, and so for me, since I'm around it so often, I drink it fairly often. That being said, it's probably been like 2 or 3 months at least since I've had this brew. But at the same time, what are you thinking of? I know you're kind of open with not caring for it.
It's actually not as bad as I remember. I don't know if it's the fact that it's a bit over chilled, like it's a bit icy, has like ice shards in there, but it's actually not that bad. Still not great,
sure,
but it's a bit more tolerable than I remember.
I feel you, most definitely.
Well, what do we do on the show, by the way? Is this it?
This is pretty much Beer Belly right here. There's not a whole lot to it.
Okay.
I mean, I do have some pre-canned questions to peek behind the curtain, but aside from that, this is what Beer Belly is. So, you the regular listeners, the 5 of you.
By the way, I'm Peter. I don't know if I introduced. Yeah, I probably should have done that.
This is how the Beer Belly episodes start. You know, it's very cash, but we get into official stuff as we go on. But since you started into it, yes, welcome to another episode of Beer Belly, like the 147th episode at this point.
I'm glad
something like that.
I'm glad you not remembering the episode numbers hasn't changed. I'm glad that still stays the same.
831st episode of Beer Belly. And the 831st time I'm going to admit myself to AA after this, essentially.
As you should.
Of course. But again, welcome to Beer Belly. With me today is none other than Peter P. Fresh himself, longtime friend of us, John and I. John is not with us, as you can clearly tell. He's in Japan right now.
No, it's me. I just lost a lot of weight.
Oh, no. Well, it's good to see you again, John. You look great. Your eyes got significantly more beautiful over the course of your weight loss challenge.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Weird that
the doctor said it was a miracle.
Yeah. The lack of cholesterol changes from brown to green and blue. It's an illuminating.
Yeah, it's crazy. 1% of the population apparently has this ability.
It's a really someone call you a mutant or, as I like to say, freak. But yeah, something like that.
Yeah, tomato.
Yeah, more or less.
Yep.
But John is away to Japan right now, hence us doing this. So apologies for missing a couple weeks of uploading. But again, we have Peter here filling in for the lad. He did need to go to Japan because a gerbil, he's kind of on like the Richard Gere kick right now, where he's like, you know what, let me see how far I can shove up the gerbil as far as my ass goes. He's trying to widen things up there, at least from what he last told me. The only thing is it got stuck, and Japan actually specializes in gerbil anal removal, so hence him being out there.
There we go. It's a week-long procedure.
Definitely so. So in the meantime, again, we have Peter here, if you're watching the video version, taking over. Where can the people find you, good sir?
I do occasionally stream.
Do you want to gain 1 follower on Instagram for them to eventually unfollow? That's basically what we're doing.
Okay, you can follow me on Instagram at PGChava, PGChava.
There you go.
I'll get 2.5 some people who follow me who unfollow me later, and I won't even notice.
Essentially. That being said, to anyone that's listening. Again, if you're not already part of the Beer Belly Patreon, that's patreon.com/BeerBellyPod, the sexiest website on planet Earth. Helps run the show. It helps us be able to afford beer like this. So thank you to those of you who
hopefully
are on
better
there.
beer than this at one point.
Eventually, that is the goal. But again, speaking of goals, it does help us be able to afford stuff down the line, like making our own studio, upgrading everything, the visuals, the overall production value of the show. So thank you to those who are already on patreon.com/BeerBellyPod. Thank you again. It helps out a bunch. If you want bonus episodes on a monthly basis, we have our new show, Beer Belly Last Call, where we have been doing movie reviews, game reviews, comics, shows, all sorts of things. So by all means, help us out. We'll help you with extra fun content. It's only $5 a month for the Beer Belly Last Call tier. But if that's too much for you, just kick it down to $1 a month. It all adds up over time. So thank you in advance for your patronage. Helps out a bunch.
Totally. You're doing God's work. Supporting their habit.
Yes, exactly. Supporting alcoholism one day at a time. Thank you. Or monthly, if you will.
Yep.
So,
crazy.
Let me ask you this, Peter.
Sure.
Granted, and I know you say it yourself, too. You're not, the beer snob / kind of like, I guess, wannabe hipster that like John and I are or anything like that.
Sure.
But what would you say did get you into craft beer, if you could say that you were into it?
I don't think... Were you... Who did I tell? I don't remember. I guess it wasn't you. But I told somebody the other day. So I work with a lot... It's funny you asked that. So I work with a lot of younger people. Sure. Like 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and all that stuff.
The younger people.
Yeah. Yeah, the children. To me, at this point, anyway.
We're old.
And yeah, they're always talking about just like... what you do in your 20s when you're first allowed to legally buy alcohol. You get your fucking UVs, you get your buzz balls, you get all the shitty, all the disgusting, shitty stuff that will get you drunk. Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm here at this point in my life thinking that all of that sounds awful.
Oh, no.
And then like they're, and even to the point where they're like, oh, Bud Light or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I can't even, why would you? So, yes, despite the fact that I'm not the biggest beer connoisseur, we'll put it that way.
Sure.
For your audience, there's a word I use off the record all the time. But anyway, with enthusiast. But I do say I think thanks to you guys, I have grown a bit of appreciation for craft beers in general.
I appreciate
to the point where regular beers kind of fucking gross me out at this point.
Nice, very cool. What are some that like kind of come up off the top of your head? Like
I have Space Dust in my fridge pretty much all the time, pretty much year round.
There you go.
Like Space Dust is pretty damn good. I gotta admit,
it's an awesome,
pretty commercial these days. You can find them in every grocery store, but still, it's pretty solid.
No, I agree, and that's the thing. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, you recognize that it's kind of like big beer, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's very popular, but at the same time, anyone that drinks beer has to understand, whether you're, a huge craft beer guy or girl or not, it's probably popular because it's a quality product at the end of the day,
Yes, and also, it's still, even though it is mass-produced, like we're just alluding to, it's still very much a craft beer.
Yeah.
Like, I would say this is probably more commercial than Space Dust, honestly. Just look at all the shit that they have on it.
I know, right? I know. It's
the most niche, like, ones, I mean, you know it. You listeners, you two people listening probably know it. Like, whenever you get a really good, like, out there beer that, like, nobody else has, it's got a blank-ass label that they printed off of a regular printer. It doesn't have all these fucking, like, recycle me, QR code, whatever the fuck all this shit is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any of that. It just has, even fucking, whatchamacallit, the Windsor place. What are they?
Russian River Brewing?
Yeah, they literally just have a fucking label. Maybe it says recycle in the corner, and that's it. And then it's just the beer. And Space Dust is pretty much that exact same way.
I agree. No, actually, I love that perspective because it's something I never really considered before, but it absolutely makes like grassroots sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's like beer. It's craft beer made by the people as opposed to anything else. So I never really considered that. I mean, even just based off the label itself, it's something that I kind of take for granted nowadays. But I'm glad that you made that point because again, it's just something. It's nothing I ever considered. But some of my favorite times for craft beer is when I go to like a random hole-in-the-wall brewery that I had never heard of, or maybe I had heard of and decided, oh, you know what, I'm finally in the area where this is based in. Let me go check it out now. And it's so cool when it's like this little small spot where it maybe seats, I don't know, 10 people, 20 people tops, and you're just there enjoying something that an owner took the time to craft themselves and maybe with the help of like a master brewer.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's freaking tight.
I have a well, unless you had more, okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
There's something I've noticed in the alcoholic beverage landscape that kind of annoys me, and I just want to see what your take on it is.
Sure.
It seems like, not just beers, but generally speaking, it feels like alcoholic beverages are slowly becoming more and more, at least on the advertising perspective, like soda or like juice. It's like seltzers. Like, it started with Mike's Hard Lemonade, I think, back in the day, and then now like what are they? Trulies are a thing.
Hard seltzers.
Hard seltzers are a thing. And then, like, I saw the other day, I don't even remember what it was exactly. I saw on the side of a liquor store, it was an alcoholic beverages, but it straight up just looked like a fucking can of soda.
That's funny. Yeah, again, something I had not thought of, but you make a good point in that, yeah, that is kind of slowly becoming the thing. And I feel like kind of what you were talking about earlier, it's a nice entry level of getting people, younger people, and people that don't drink that often into it. You know, like, for instance, my wife, Sin, you know, she's referenced all the time on the show. She is not a big fan of beer. And unless occasionally it's like a stout or a porter or a sour. Nice. Or a hard seltzer.
Those are all my favorites, except for the seltzer.
No, I mean, exactly. And even then, like, there's some seltzers she does not want any part of. But every once in a while, you'll find a brewery where they, you know, since they actually put love into the product, it's not just this mass-produced Truly or White Claw or any other big name you can drop. They actually have some, they put emphasis into what they're doing. There's a couple breweries we've gone to over the past year that specialize in hard seltzer, to where it's like, oh, cool, it's not just like a sneeze of flavor. They actually go about balancing carbonation with actual sweetness and specific flavor profiles, to where, yeah, I would say, though, a lot of people are doing that just to kind of get people into the mode of, like, drinking, which is kind of weird to say, because it's kind of like, I don't know, making alcohol more accessible to people.
I think that's what bothers me about it.
It's just
I don't know.
It's a little weird.
I feel like I took this to a different direction that I don't really want to get
the
into.
Tinfoil Hat podcast,
sort of like that. Yeah.
No, but it's okay. It got dark really quick.
It's good. Yeah.
Acceptable alcoholism.
I'm gonna start talking about commercialism and capitalism and shit. Never mind. Let's change the subject.
We do tend to keep it a little light here.
We're just going to piss myself off.
No, it's okay. This is already a different kind of episode. So as far as I'm concerned, let it be. It's all good. If you're passionate about it, that's what people are going to care about anyway. But I would agree.
I will say, it's like, to touch on what you said about, like, people taking the time. I mean, it's in the name, right? It's a craft beer. Like, it's something that somebody cared about and took the time to meticulously try to create. Like, they had a vision, and that's their vision
through failure and success.
And I think that's what I respect about it.
Hell yeah.
About IPAs, and not just IPAs, but I feel like those are the more popular craft beers
nowadays. Sure.
But just in general, like, I appreciate it. Even though I'm not the biggest fan, like you alluded to, I can appreciate the craft behind it, the art, if you will.
Certainly.
Again, the art and the artist can be separated.
1000%.
Still love Harry Potter. Matter of fact, I have my wand up here. Let me show you my wand.
Please show the people.
Why not?
Oh,
like, it's a different kind of
collectors! Oh my God! And we just broke the podcast.
I don't know what fell, but something fell. This is my.
It's actually pretty awesome.
Harry Potter wand.
Collector's Edition 2020.
Yep.
Gotcha.
My wife got it.
So there's
for me.
actually still living organisms of COVID on the wand itself.
Yep, exactly.
But that's also what makes the magic happen.
That's exactly what makes the magic happen. That's what makes Avada Kedavra work.
Well, actually, yeah, show that right there. That what is that considered? The grip of the wand?
I don't fucking know. I'm not that big of a nerd. I just like the movies, okay?
It's actually a pretty cool insignia on it. That's actually kind of sick.
It's nobody's wand in particular, in case you're wondering out there. In case anybody else is a big nerd.
It's Peter's wand.
It's my wand.
Very good. Which is also what he and his wife call it in bed as well.
Oh, no, we have other toys for that.
Oh, very nice. Come on down to Peter's bedroom.
Yep, we're not going to get this thing dirty. This is a collector's item. You saw it, Collector's Edition 2020.
Fair enough. Only the finest of anuses get experience that.
Oh, yes. Mine. And that's it.
Give him a solid Lumos. His ass will light up with an amazing idea.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned it a little bit ago, but I guess to get into it a little bit more, we don't have to get crazy, but what are some of your preferred brew types, would you say?
I love sour beers.
It's
just so out there. Like, I remember the first time, I've told you this story before. I remember the first time I experienced it. I don't think I ever took you to this spot.
You need to.
I think I took John. It was it's in West Covina. It's called Republic. It's not a brewery, but they just it's a bit of a dive bar. They just have a lot of selections.
Shout out.
Yeah. Yeah, Republic and West Covina. I don't even know if they're still there. It's been years. But anyway, I hope they are because they're great. They rotate their beers. They usually have like fucking, I think like 20 plus beers on tap, and they're cycling through them.
Nice.
And my friend got it, and he just reacted like, oh God, what the fuck is this? And then I'm like, and then he had me try it, and I had the exact same reaction. It blew it tasted just like a Warhead, those sour candies.
Awesome.
It tasted just like it, and it like just fucking woke me the hell up.
Super pungent.
Yeah, but it was just so different. It's not what you would expect from a beer.
Right.
And from that point on, I was like, I'm gonna try every sour beer that I ever come across.
Hell yeah.
And they're very rare. Even like it's not very often you run into one, but whenever I do, that's the first thing I try. It's the first thing I'm looking for every time I go to a brewery because they're just so different. They're so bizarre. Love it or hate it, you can't argue that they're very different.
Absolutely. No, yeah, there's a uniqueness that comes with that. But that's something that I've grown to appreciate over time as well. Like the idea of a beer being sour to me once upon a time was like totally unattractive. And then once I actually gave it a chance, it blew my mind. And now I actually have gained a taste for it to where sometimes if it's too subtle, then it's not really giving me enough. I almost feel like maybe they're cheaping out on ingredients or not, just like it's imbalanced. But then there's other times where it's like overly done for me where I'm just like, okay, this is just, it's kind of killing the joints in my mouth.
I got spoiled with that first one. I forget. Sure. It was called the brewery was called Acoustic.
Okay, shout out.
And so whenever I see that brewery on tap, I always try it because like they made such an impression on me that day.
Good for you.
And again, coming from someone who's not really into beers all that much, like those are my two things. I'm looking for a sour beer and I'm looking for anything by Acoustic. And they do a lot of other things. They do IPAs and all the other traditional stuff you would expect a brewery to do.
Sure.
What would you even call it? Like a third party brewery, a craft brewery, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So. But yeah, anyway.
No, that's tight.
I just realized something. Can you close my window?
Absolutely.
I live in a quiet neighborhood, and I'm sure my neighbors across the street can hear this entire conversation.
Sorry, I'm a little far away from
It's okay. I don't really.
When we moved into the house that we're in now, shoot, I was closing.
Is it stuck?
No, it was just me. Oh,
is something stuck? Oh, there we go. There. Okay.
Just being an idiot. Yeah, we moved the first day. We moved into the new house I'm in now. It's a super quiet neighborhood also. A lot of older people live in the neighborhood on our street. And I swear the street was so quiet. I heard a squeaking from my garage. And I was like, what is that squeaking? I look outside and I'm like trying to find where it's coming from. I see directly across the street our neighbor. This older lady is screwing in a light bulb over her driveway. And I'm like, that's how quiet this fucking place is. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
You can a freaking a mouse can't fart without you hearing about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I hear pretty much everybody walking past my house.
Jesus. So again, sour beer. Kudos to you on that. I actually don't think I realized that you were that big of a sour guy, or at least to where you appreciate
that first one spoiled me. That first one that I had, the one that made an impression on me, is hands down my favorite one I've ever had.
You're chasing the dragon ever since.
Kind of, pretty much, yeah. Nothing, and I've never seen that same beer at another. Like, and I look for it. I've never seen it anywhere else. That's the only time I've been able to get it.
Oh, you're gonna have to visit it. I'm gonna look up where Acoustic's from. I honestly am not familiar.
I think I looked it up once. It's actually pretty close. I just never got around to it.
Bitch, we gotta go. Then that would be super fun. I'd be happy to go with you. Here we go. Oh, yeah, in, North Carolina. Or Acoustic Ales? Is that what it's called?
I don't remember. I know the topper on it was like a little music, what are they called? Like those old record players?
Oh, no, San Diego. My bad.
Yeah, okay, San Diego. There we go. Yeah,
Acoustic Ales Brewing, San Diego. We should definitely go. There's actually
if you were going to be in San Diego next week.
Hell yeah.
I'm just saying.
So Peter's going to be... why don't you explain why you're going to be in San Diego?
As you probably may have guessed, being friends with this one and the other one, I'm a pretty big nerd, and I'm really into. If you guys are familiar with the anime One Piece, they have a card game based on that. It's been out for about a year and a half now, coming up on 2 years, and I'm super into that. Not particularly great at it, but I still attempt to play at a competitive level. So I'm going to a regional tournament in San Diego next weekend. Well, I don't know when this is going to be released. I guess the weekend after Halloween.
Sure. There you go. Probably right around that time, actually, is when this will go up.
Okay.
No, that's tight. That's the fun thing about TCGs, at least in my experience. I have never really been great at them, but part of what I love is just ridiculous deck building and just seeing how well I can execute on my ideas. And hey, sometimes it actually turns out to be fun and kind of not meta breaking, but it counters the meta, if you will. And then there's other times where I will just kind of whore myself out and go full meta just because it's what wins and it feels good to win.
You kind of have to. It took me a while. Like I said, the game's been out for almost 2 years. I think I've been playing since halfway through set 2, so like pretty early on in the game's lifespan. And yeah, no, I was the same way. I specifically stayed away from meta decks because I'm stubborn and I just don't want to win that way.
Sure.
Which coincidentally, one of the best decks in the format at that time was Zoro, who's my favorite character in the anime, and I did not touch him at all. I was like, I'm not gonna touch one of the best leaders in the format. That's just not happening. I'm just that guy.
Respect that you would even defy your own favorite character.
Yeah, I gave up on that last set. I was tired of losing. I was tired. It's such an uphill battle. I was just so over it. I'm like, fuck it. Okay, I'm tier whoring out from this point on.
If it gets you the dub, if it allows you to qualify further and they're for the regional championships.
There's still a lot of strategy and there's like skill checks. Like just running the best deck isn't going to win you. Isn't going to put you at the top. Like you still need to have an understanding of your matchups in the game and what to look for, what not to look for. Like there's all the micro decisions that lead to a champion. So there's still, it's still a struggle. I'm still learning.
No, for sure. I like the way you put that, actually. The micro decisions that lead to being a champion. That's well said. That's really well said. But it's true. Like, I don't think I've really talked about it much on this show, but I happen to be an enthusiast of the Pokemon trading card game. Have been since basically day one back in the day. Have had my times of being away from the game and on it again and stuff. But I really do appreciate it to where there's a podcast I listen to, Uncommon Energy, shout out, and not a sponsor. And they were talking about one of the biggest pro players from America, if I'm not mistaken. He actually played a Magic the Gathering tournament, and I think he got second place or something like that. Like I think like at least top 3 or something. Okay, which is cool, and just that it shows that yes, you can run a great deck. But it really comes down to skill and skill checking. If you have a strong understanding of how to play a card game, that will win you out overall. Like, yes, it helps to have the right tools, but ultimately, a hammer can't do anything without someone that uses it properly. Oh yeah,
no, 100%. Well said.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly what I'm talking about.
Hell yeah. Well, okay, let me ask you this. As far as beer goes, to bring it back to that, this is probably the most craft beer-centric episode there's ever been of Beer Belly.
How the fuck? What the fuck do you guys talk about? I feel like that's kind of the name of the game, really.
One would think.
I would think.
And once upon a time it was. But then after probably episode 5, it kind of all went to the John and AJ show.
How many times could you repeat your same opinions on craft beers, I guess? Okay, fair enough.
Essentially. So, what would you think, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but let's see as far as your improv skills go.
Not very good.
It's okay. Nah, I beg to differ.
Yes,
I've seen you. Yeah, there you go. Can you give us at least like one favorite craft beer memory, would you say?
Craft beer memory?
Or just like a memory where beer happened to be a part of the situation. We'll put it that way.
I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is probably the most memorable one, and it's actually the trip that we did. Not the trip for John's bachelor party, but the other trip we went to Russian River, the one where your wife got sick and couldn't show up.
Yes. That San Francisco trip. That was sick.
Yeah, that one. She was supposed to go. I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name on here, so I just didn't.
I just mentioned her earlier.
You did? I didn't even notice.
Sin, legal name Cynthia.
Yes.
Here's her social security number.
I need a credit card number and everything. Yes,
of course.
But yeah, no, I think that was probably. I remember just being at Russian River, the main one,
the Windsor location.
Yes,
actually.
exactly.
That's actually the newer location. But
it is.
Oh,
okay.
I'm just knowledge checking you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that one, and I remember we all, like you and me, got a flight. I think I think we all did. I think you, John, and myself got a flight, and then my wife, Maylee, and John's. Well, were we married at? I don't even think we were married at the time.
No,
anyway,
no.
None of us were married
Legally
at the time.
single at the time.
Anyway. We were all there, all of our significant others, and that was just. I just remember us getting the flight and us just kind of conversating about it. I was trying again, despite the fact that I'm not, at least especially at that time, I was kind of anti-beer snobbery.
Sure.
I wasn't as accepting of it in my own personality. But yeah, I just remember just sipping those tasters, talking about them, having a good time. Like it was fun. It was a good time. It was a nice little trip.
It was fun. I would say one thing I appreciate about Russian River's flights overall is that they specialize specifically in IPAs and Belgian style beers, and the flights that we were getting were the full flights where it had all of their IPA and all of their Belgians on one, except for Pliny the Younger, of course, which is their seasonal release everyone knows about, but knows them for, I would say. But that was crazy. Like, it's like a big old like wooden plate that they give you.
I think that was another reason why it was memorable. It was actually a lot to go through.
Generally
I think one of the reasons why I don't like beers all that much is that I just don't like carbonated beverages in general.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I remember that being kind of a chore. a good chore, a good chore to have to go through, but a chore nonetheless. I remember really struggling those last few.
It leads to a good outcome, but sometimes you have to battle through it to get there, to get that feeling that you're looking for.
Especially the nasty ones. I don't remember. There was like 2 I really didn't like.
I mean, I respect Russian River Brewing, and hey, future sponsor one day. I doubt we're not that safe of a podcast to want to sponsor. I'll put it that way. This episode may be a little better. But I was going to say, the Belgians are, while they're not as popular of an option, they did surprise me in how much I did like them. But then also, there were some that I didn't care for as much either. But that's all subjective anyway. There's probably people that probably feel like their IPAs are overrated, and they prefer the Belgians more, which is great. It's all, teach their own.
And a brewery like that, I imagine, like when you attract the amount of people that you do there, like granted their reputation, you kind of do have to branch out into different avenues to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I'm not a big fan of blondes, the drinks. What's the other one? Ambers. I'm not really a big fan of those. I do like stouts.
Yes.
But I remember I didn't like theirs.
I don't think they... they might have had a stout.
Or they had a porter or a stout. They had something, and I was just... I wasn't a fan.
It might have been... it might have been one. If anything, if memory serves me right, it was like a brewery that they featured in-house.
That sounds familiar.
That wasn't their own. Because, they typically just stick to IPA and sometimes pale ales, which are a little bit different and usually lighter compared to an IPA. Not nearly as hoppy, typically. And then, of course, their Belgian-style beers as well. Hold on, though. We'll be right back. We're just going to grab another brewski that Peter offered me earlier.
That's right. That's Space Dust I mentioned.
We'll be right back. All right. So, yes.
That's Space Dust.
We're back. Elysian Space Dust. Again, still once upon a time. Cheers. A microbrewery. Once upon a time, which has since like blown up like crazy. But yeah.
Oh, that is fucking good. Especially after that Lagunitas. Man, this was just fucking delicious. Really good.
I love hearing that from you because... I never thought I would ever see the day.
It's so fruity. Like, it's just so, like... Oh, my bad.
Sorry.
I don't know. There's just a lot of flavor. There's a lot going on with this one. I like it. It's a nice, digestible beer, which is something I can't really say for pretty much anything. Like, my favorite beer is Guinness.
Sure.
Yeah, you can hate me all you want. Everybody does. Nobody likes Guinness, except for the people that do, and I'm one of them.
I mean, just generations of Irish people. So.
Yeah, exactly. But it's pretty heavy. It's not something I just want, when I'm hanging out with a buddy or guest starring on a podcast.
Going for a jog.
Yeah, exactly. Taking a cruise in my car or whatever. It's a little too heavy for that. But this, it's a bit lighter. It's still got a lot of flavor. It goes down easy. I'm with it.
Exactly.
I'm here for it.
No, but that's super cool. Again, like I was saying, I never thought I'd see the day. When I met Peter, his beer, like he said, of choice, it has and was been, Guinness, which is cool. It's a very popular stout brand, especially still nowadays. But at the same time, that was like when I was meeting Peter, I wasn't quite into craft beer yet, but obviously over the past, 15, 16 years, maybe even longer than that now, I've grown into becoming more accustomed with craft beer, obviously this show and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, from Peter then to Peter now, it is like a night and day situation to a certain extent, which is pretty cool. I mean, just as your friend and just kind of through osmosis of hanging out together, you have gained an appreciation in your own right.
I have. I've grown to a certain level of stobbiness myself, to the point to where if I do go. I've gone to a few baseball games for work events, team builds and stuff, and every time I go, I'm just like. I see I see the Budweisers, and I'm just like, oh, why would you? I'd rather not drink than have one of those at this point.
Not drink or spend an extra $8 to get an IPA.
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
That. Or if it's Dodger Stadium,
well, it was a work thing, so they gave us $50 credit. So I was.
Oh, nice.
I was enjoying life that day. That was fun.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Jesus. Well, again, that I think that just speaks because it's obviously it's not a required part of friendship, but the fact that. I guess our friendship, you, me, and John and such, would have such an influence to where you would actually gain appreciation to where you also not only gain appreciation but preference.
Is that much of a surprise? Is that I can't hang out with you fuckers without there being alcohol involved? Like, is that really much of a surprise?
I was going to say the last time we hung out, we didn't have alcohol, but that's a bold-faced lie. Because we were at Yard House.
That is a bold-faced lie, yes.
Alcohol.
I always tell myself, like, I'll just hang out with John and I'll have a beer or two, everything will be fine. And then I just go home shit-faced. So many times have I made that mistake to the point where I pretty much have to plan out, like, okay, do I work the next day? No, okay, I can hang out.
You can hang out. Fair enough. Well, it comes down to the classic, come on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Part of our friendship. Fortunately,
I'm a bit older now. I'm a bit more responsible. I can put my foot down at this point. Yeah. And I do. There's sometimes where I'm just like, nah, I'm done. I'm like that. Thank you, but I'm good. No, 5 rounds is enough. God damn it, please.
5 rounds of Space Us alone is a great amount of beer, for that matter.
Oh yeah.
What is that like? Probably like 50% beer at that point, almost 45% beer at that point.
Yeah, might as well be drinking rubbing alcohol at that point. It'll give the same effect much cheaper. Probably a lot more damage to my liver, but
fair enough.
Still.
Well, again, something else that you've talked about is like, we've been talking about beer and such. What have you been drinking lately?
Who would have thought on a podcast by this name?
Right. But what have you been drinking lately? Like any specific names or brands that you can think of?
I don't drink that much.
Sure.
Which is weird for you to have me a guest on this, but I genuinely don't drink that much. I'm probably the definition of a social drinker. I will drink with friends. I will drink with family. I'll drink when there's like an event, where there's a special occasion. Mm-hmm. Very, very, very rarely do I just pull out a beer or a whiskey just because. But whenever I do, it's usually a Angel's Envy whiskey. That's my favorite whiskey.
Very nice. Which actually, if you go to Costco right now, it's actually at a good price. Very fair price.
It's a very good mid-level, like
bourbon.
Exactly. Yeah. $50 for a bottle. It's smooth. It's got a lot of flavor. Like you can't go wrong.
There you go. As far as like mid-level for me that I've been going through, since you brought up bourbon, what would probably I want to get into Angel's Envy more, and I feel like you're my gateway into that. Because actually, you and
I think I was with John the first time I tried that.
Really?
Yeah, we went to Bevmo. This was years ago, like years and years ago. We went to Bevmo, and they had it in a glass case. There was Angel's Envy, and in the same case, they had something called like Devil's something. And we were both literally like, okay, do we go with the Angel or do we go with the Devil? And we went with the Angel that day.
Angel Kong. Very good.
And from that day forward, I'm just like, damn, this is actually fucking amazing. This is my shit. Anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. No. By all means, go off. I'm fine with that. That is.
I wonder if he remembers that.
I bet he would. Or he doesn't because you guys had so much fun, but I don't know. I was going to say, that is one cool thing about whiskey in particular. Even if it's a whiskey you don't really care for, if you devote, I would say, at least 3 glasses of a whiskey, eventually you'll grow a positive taste for it. Especially if it's the one thing that you plan on drinking for the night, and you're like, hey, you know what? It's either this or nothing.
If you're into whiskeys, I guess.
Yeah.
Not everybody is.
I just think obviously the buzz that you get kind of helps because even for myself and since you mentioned John, the man with the dribble in his ass at the moment. Yep. God bless him.
Yep.
And his recovery.
Power to him.
Yeah. We all at least he took the leap that we weren't willing to.
Yeah. God bless.
I was going to say.
Man of science. Falling on the blade so we don't have to. Now we know.
Where no man has gone before.
Now
except
we
for
know.
he and Richard Gere.
Yes.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Richard Gere, also.
Shout out.
I feel so bad for that man.
I feel like this isn't the first time you've mentioned him.
Richard Gere has even assholes like us talking about that incident. So, I feel bad.
It's like a 20-year-old incident at this point. Like, what's there even...
Too. I was going to say, no, but even since you mentioned John, that's one thing I will appreciate about being with John sometimes, or even when you and I have done it, to where it's like, if we have enough to drink of something, we actually gain a taste for it, an appreciation for it, because obviously...
that's how alcohol works, right?
I guess.
It's kind of like the more inebriated you get, the easier it is to go down. And then you can start, like, maybe dissecting the subtleties in it a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Or at least just appreciating the fact that it's not as hard to go down as it was earlier.
Yep.
But like you said, you can, if you're at least have an inkling of enjoying it, like you said, dissecting it.
I mean, it's like wine. You kind of have to, like, your palate has to adjust to it. Your first sip is probably going to be fucking gross, but you got to let your palate adjust, and then you can start kind of enjoying it.
1,000%. And I feel like since you
it annoys me. Speaking of like being a not heavy drinker, but it does annoy me when people like take a sip and they're like, "Oh no, I hate this shit. I'm done."
Right.
Like, just give it a try. Give it a decent try and see what your opinion is on it.
Sure, because it may not be inherently your thing, which is fair. You know, at first taste, if it's not for you, I mean, I can be that way too about things. But you're right. If I were to devote however many pours of something, I would probably appreciate it after a little while, or at least gain a new appreciation, even if it's minuscule or not. You know, or maybe I would greatly appreciate it. Not everything's going to hit my palate the way I would like it to every time. If the first time I try something, it might be too sweet, it might be too sour, it might be too hoppy, it might not be hoppy enough. On and on and on.
I'll never have a hard opinion on something that I haven't given a fair chance.
Good for you.
Which leads me to the point of me being on this podcast. So One Piece
Hell yeah. God damn it.
is the best anime ever made, and everybody on this world would benefit from watching it.
Probably at least in one facet or another. Like, you will learn a life lesson from it. How to not be an asshole. How to stick up for your friends. And many others.
I'm not going to... I just said that for a gag. I'm not going to go into it, but it's daunting, but I think most people would benefit from it. It's actually really fucking good.
But it is daunting.
It is daunting. 1,000+ episodes and still running strong. It's in its final arc, which who knows how long...
Quote unquote.
Who knows how... It's its final saga, so who knows how long that's going to be. I still have it pegged for, like, 2026 at the earliest, and even then I feel like I'm kind of being a bit generous.
Okay, we're recording this in late October 2024 for reference, okay? So just keep that in mind. Jesus Christ.
But no, it's really good. It's really worth it. There's a reason why it's still around.
No, absolutely. I'll say this. I have not seen an episode that I don't appreciate, at least in one way or another. So there you go. I mean, granted, I have tried to skip filler, I guess, once. But
I skipped all the filler.
Oh, there you go. Then I will continue to then. Sure.
I went back and watched them afterwards, and some of them are actually pretty funny. As a matter of fact, the most recent episode is a filler episode, non-canon.
Nice.
And it's fucking amazing.
See, there you go.
It is actually like it was like number 2 in like the highest rated anime episodes of all time within its first weekend.
Holy shit.
Like, it's really good.
That's badass. Well, see, there you go. And I've experienced that with some anime as well, to where it's like, if you skip, sometimes you do miss out on like just the little things that actually make something really great and enjoyable. Like, again, I've experienced that a couple times, and it's like, well, if you could skip it, but you also miss out on all this joy that comes from it as well. So skip it if you must, but if you can afford the extra half hour or however many hours that accumulate to that, might as well enjoy it.
And that's pretty much what this episode was. It's called One Piece Fan Letter, and It's about a little girl trying to deliver a fan letter to the Straw Hats. And it's adorable, and it's really good. It's animated very well, and the 24-minute fucking non-canon episode has so much character development. It's insane. It's really good.
That's awesome. Well, there you go.
Anyway, we're talking about beer. Sometimes, I don't know. What do we... Movies? I guess we talk about everything. There's no rules to this podcast, is there?
As you can tell, the guest host does not listen to much of Beer Belly.
Yeah.
So I encourage you all to spam at PGChava on your favorite socials.
I think I listened
to him know.
I think I listened to 3 episodes when I was working overnights once.
That's not encouraging to new audience members. God damn it. That's okay. But I'm glad.
This is before. This is
told me that.
The first few episodes, you were very snobby with your fucking beer. Like, it was very hard to listen to. I gave it a chance.
Sure.
And it was very hard. I remember. The episode I chose to listen to, I have no idea what number it was.
Do you remember the name?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
But I do remember there was a point where you guys brought up an IPA that was like 3% or something.
Oh, interesting.
But you were so fucking elitist about it. You were just like, oh, an IPA that's like 3%. I'm just like, oh God, I can't do this, man.
Well, to anyone that does listen to the show regularly, you do know that John does not accept a beer as being an alcoholic beverage unless it's 7% or up. That is his standard, apparently. As he being the Surgeon General.
Yeah,
which is
clearly.
a long-running joke of the show.
Okay.
So there is that.
The gerbil isn't a long-running joke?
No. That's just news. That's just
that's just giving your fans an update, really.
yeah, an update.
Nobody's surprised. They're just like, oh, okay, that's happening again.
Okay, yeah, that's a new thing now. Good to know. Glad to see we know why he's gone at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, John will permanently be replaced by Peter here, and also the gerbil once he is eventually extracted from John's
You should get
anus.
that gerbil on the show.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Yeah, see what his perspective is on things.
After a good thorough bath. It's going to be a dark and dirty perspective.
Maybe put some
on things.
plastic over the equipment just to be safe. You know, he's going to be like Pigpen from the Peanuts gang.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Something like that all over this beautiful desk we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Poor boy. Okay, well, before we go, of course, an episode of Beer Belly would not be complete without John or Peter's Words of Wisdom for the week. This is usually a segment that is dedicated to John, but this time, someone's got to do it. I'm putting him on the spot every time.
Okay,
now
cool.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, great.
Words of Wisdom in general.
Zip it up and zip it out.
I don't know what that means, but I'll drink to it anyway. Cheers.
Bet.
Okay. Well, again, if you want to be able to find episodes of Beer Belly all across the podcast nation, anywhere that you prefer to listen to podcasts, video episodes, always on Spotify. It's the easiest and most convenient way to be able to transition from audio to video at any given point. That's usually what I'll do if I'm like being like masturbatory and I'm like, you know what, let me just hear how this episode turned out. Maybe I'll watch the video when I'm at home and then I jump in the car. It transitions to audio instantly. No big deal there. But of course, patreon.com/BeerBellyPod, where you can get bonus episodes, Beer Belly Last Call for movie, game, comic, and TV show reviews. It helps keep the lights on, very much so. So thank you very much. Even whether you're willing to give $1 or $5 a month. If you give $5 a month, that's $60 a year, equivalent to maybe a tank of gas, more or less. But it all helps out a lot. You might think, what's $1 a month going to do? But again, the more people that do give that, the more it adds up over time. So thank you very much in advance for all your help in the future
more
as well.
space dust.
Exactly.
As opposed to that other one that we will not talk about anymore.
It's called the other one. Again, at PGChava to follow this guy.
I don't know why you would, but you can if you want.
Jesus. He has good opinions on things. Sometimes very, very controversial. I've seen sometimes where he gets replies on X or Twitter, if you will, and every once in a while he gets himself in some heated situations.
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
fun.
Those guys are fucking cult members at that point.
Jesus Christ. Well, there you go. If you want to have an idea of what we're talking about.
If you're a hardcore Snyder fan, go fuck yourself.
Jesus
there, I said it.
Christ.
He's not that good.
Okay, since you brought up, I wanted to wrap things up, but since you brought it up, I want to say the DCU has a chance. I want to say
who cares at this point? Like, honestly, Marvel's kind of fallen off.
Yeah,
like,
it
here
really
and there,
has.
they have ups and downs. Like, we had our fun. Like, I don't even care at this point. The Batman was good. Joker 2, whatever the fuck it's called. Folly.
I still haven't seen it.
I haven't. I've heard it's terrible.
I've heard terrible things.
Like, I don't know. I'm over it at this point. We got a good Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. It was pretty good. They're making a sequel. I'm excited for that. But, like, I think we're done. I think we're done with universes. I think the MCU is the only one that really had a fair shake at it, that did it successfully. Other people have been trying to emulate it. Every single one of them has failed. Like, I think we're done. I'm over, and I'm fine with that. Just start making good movies again.
Exactly. Whether it's all interconnected, like you said, in a universe or not, just make good movies. That's all we really care about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. If you'd like to see Peter on episodes of Beer Belly Last Call, he will not get any of the proceeds that you give on patreon.com/BeerBellyPod, but he will be part of the episodes nonetheless. So if you like this guy's
I get free beer. I think that'll be my payment.
That is fair enough. Absolutely. Maybe a shoulder massage from the gerbil that comes out of John's ass in the future.
He needs
as
to take
well.
a shower first.
Fair
That's
enough.
mandatory.
All right. I'm done rubbing my crotch on Peter because we're sharing this microphone very closely. We'll see you on the next episode of Beer Belly. Bye.
He will, not me. Bye.